What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and there is an absolute bevy of cringe coming out of the comic book industry today. Not just Marvel, but also DC. Rumors around Marvel purchasing DC, which have been smoldering for as long as I can remember. More woman in comic books, and the great Kevin Feige allegedly wanting to quit Marvel over diversity. Now, I find it extraordinarily hard to believe that that would be the case, but let's take a look at all of the hilarity from today. Marvel rumored to take over DC Comics. Now, this is cosmic book news. They aren't exactly, maybe they're one step above. We've got this covered. I haven't seen a lot of sources when it comes to this stuff, but the articles do seem decently researched. It says the big rumors hit the net in the wake of AT&T firing Dan DiDio that Marvel and Kevin Feige may take over DC Comics. It's claimed that AT&T wasn't happy with Dan's latest attempt at rebooting DC Comics with the upcoming 5G event, also known as the fifth generation reboot of DC, which would have seen classic characters replaced with contemporary take on characters. That said, Dan DiDio butted heads with Batman writer Scott Snyder over the 5G reboot, as Snyder didn't want his comics involved in the event, which caused problems at DC. So Friday saw DiDio called into the AT&T Warner Brothers offices, where he was fired and let go immediately from DC Comics, which saw DiDio exit the grounds immediately. It's claimed that AT&T doesn't want to do the 5G reboot, as they have too much at stake with the classic characters involved in the movies and television shows and various merchandise products. It's said that AT&T is considering using Hollywood movie and TV writers on the DC Comics, writers who already have a proven track record instead of comic book writers. An example would be James Gunn writing the comic, The Squad, or J.J. Abrams writing Star Wars stuff. Abrams, I don't know. So having the 5G comic book characters such as Black Batman wouldn't fit in with the Robert Pattinson movie. Now, if you don't read the books, if you don't read the comic books, they are, modern day comic books are very different than, what we're seeing on screen. And what we're seeing in the comic books isn't selling well, and it's not going to sell well on screen. Although you could argue that Captain Marvel was canceled multiple times in comic book, but did fine in the cinema. We'll see how Captain Marvel 2 does when it's not required reading for Endgame, but if it still makes good money, well, then maybe it isn't guaranteed. It's claimed that AT&T is also contemplating getting out of publishing side of things altogether and farming DC Comics out possibly to Marvel. Note, Ethan Van Sciver said AT&T will shut DC Comics if 5G fails. He does, I'm sure, have still inside sources there. It's said that AT&T doesn't want to sell DC Comics because they see the value in the various IPs like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Now, interestingly enough, there's a lot going on at Marvel. In fact, will they purchase DC Comics? Boy, I don't know. I mean, it's not like Marvel's doing much better. I've got to be honest with you. Paperback comics are just in a really rough spot right now. I think they're in a rough spot not just because so many of them are bad, and believe me, they are. There's definitely good comic books out there. It's just, I don't know if it's just the fact that print is kind of dead. I mean, if you look at even just bookstores and things like that, they're all being replaced by Amazon. Local game shops, local comic book shops are shuttering at record speeds because even before now, they weren't exactly a huge moneymaker for people as much as they were a passion project. This is why I'm so passionate about the comic book space, is because it's very similar to that is the Magic the Gathering space where I've spent 10, 15 years of my life. Now, Mark Ruffalo is saying that Kevin Feige almost left Marvel over clash with Disney on female superhero movies. Press X to doubt. I've got to imagine Feige's yearly salary is in the tens of millions of dollars. I highly doubt he's walking away. Feige runs the MCU, which means he currently runs the most successful movie franchise in the world. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold and upset Martin Scorsese. But he put his Marvel Studios job on the line to stand up for Disney's biggest shareholder, among others at the parent company, to fight for female-led superhero movies. According to Ruffalo's account, Feige wasn't sure if he'd have a job after making his pitch to Disney. It wasn't clear whether he would have quit or if they would have said no and thought Disney might fire him for standing up to them. Either way, he won. He stood up for change and made it happen. Now, I find it a little difficult to believe that Disney, the company that is pushing just as hard for female-led properties, would have had any problem whatsoever with what Kevin Feige was pitching. I find it very difficult to believe that Hollywood, which is consistently pushing for more female leads, would have had any problem with what Kevin Feige wanted to do. Now, if the films don't make any money, that's going to be the interesting thing. That's what would get you fired. Essentially, Marvel is a formula now. Every movie is basically the same. You have zero stakes. You have, really good special effects. You have a little comedy built in with a little bit of action. And there you go. It's a summer blockbuster. What I'm really interested in seeing, though, is what's going to happen, for example, with Black Widow. I have this sneaking suspicion that Black Widow will do fine. 500, 600, 700 million, which will probably be a really strong return if the budget is like 1 to 250 million. Will it make $1 billion? Gosh, I would be really surprised. And that's saying something, because people not only do they like Black Widow, but they like the actress that plays her. So it's like, if that movie doesn't make $1 billion, is at the end of kind of the $1 billion run for Disney. Mark Ruffalo told the story in an interview with The Independent. Ruffalo plays Bruce Banner, the Hulk in the MCU, and he's very active in the progressive politics. Yes, we know. The site noted how Marvel had been criticized in the past for its lack of LGBT representation, with many allies disappointed to just get a brief nod in Avengers Endgame. Well, hey, you know what? You're going to get a sweet dude-on-dude kiss in the Eternals, so hope it sells tickets. We know, based on just recently Birds of Prey, that all these allies, which apparently only exist on Twitter and in Hollywood, don't bother to spend the $15 to go to the movie theater. Now, the quote goes, "When we first did Avengers, Kevin Feige told me, listen, I might not be back here tomorrow." He was going to talk to Disney about the issue of why there were no female superhero movies. And he's like, Isaac Perlmutter, Disney's largest shareholder, does not believe that anyone will go to a female starring superhero movie. So if I'm still here tomorrow, you'll know that I won the battle. Stunning and brave. Kevin Feige speaking up was a turning point for Marvel, Mark Ruffalo said. Because Kevin wanted black superheroes, women superheroes, LGBT superheroes, he changed the whole Marvel universe. We now have gay superhero on the way. We have black superheroes. We have female superheroes. Scarlett Johansson has her own movie coming out. By the way, she's been in the series for years. They're doing She-Hulk next, which will be hilariously bad. No other studio is being that inclusive on that level. Really? What about Wonder Woman? How about Blade? These are movies that have existed for a very long time and will continue to exist. This whole thing is ridiculous to me. And it's almost like Kevin Feige's like, yeah, maybe they'll fire me. And now they're trying to spin it like he's a stunning and brave character, which will spin into articles like this. Hollywood still won't let female superheroes exist in the present. Oh, Hollywood. The politics of producing, advertising, creating films centered on female superheroes is not a new topic. Also, every time a solo-led female superhero film gets released, fans are quick to pass judgment on the film. Excuse me, baking powder. Fans are quick to pass judgment on every single superhero film that comes out, long before anybody else. That's the way it is. That's what you cultivated. That's when you wanted to turn fans into advocates. This is what you asked for. It has nothing to do with it being a woman. Even before the release of Captain Marvel, fans were rating Rotten Tomatoes and intentionally giving it a low rating, leaving it with a whopping 45% of audience score compared to a critic score of 78. Even DC's Wonder Woman faced pre-release criticism. No, it did? When? When? Critics claimed that director James Cameron argued that the film wasn't as groundbreaking as critics claimed, since Gal Gadot was Miss Israel and she was wearing some kind of bustier costume that was very form-fitting. What? I mean, how do these people even get out of their house in the morning? It's so funny. And the idea here, this whole article is written that why are women-led superhero films constantly placed in the past setting? As has been previously suggested, the emotions elicited by nostalgia may be to blame for an almost trope-like execution. Or you mean like, I don't know, the giant industry trend of going back to the 80s and 90s? You know, all the other, how about the show Stranger Things, which is an ensemble cast, wildly popular, set in the 80s, early 90s era. This is just a thing in Hollywood right now, one that, by the way, I'm bored of. In fact, when I saw that Wonder Woman 1984 was coming out, I got to be honest with you, I was immediately a little less interested in it because it's just so overdone. Maybe it's because I lived in that era. I don't know, but it's crazy to me. Which in itself is a problem. Sure, it's easier to showcase a room full of men wondering why Diana Prince is speaking up when she's the only one who knows both Ottoman and Sumerian, but having this type of ism occur in superhero period pieces also gives younger audiences that the idea of misogyny is a thing of the past when it truly isn't. Okay, so you want to make sure it's not enough that women are being strongly represented in every facet of Hollywood, but now you're mad that it's the wrong time period. Marvel is so important because it shows us that strong women aren't immune from the standard misogynistic micro and macro. This is a comic book website. Micro and macro aggressions they face in their day-to-day lives. What? What? You mean like guys that get made fun of for being short, or, you know, not being able to grow a beard, or being baby-faced, or how about the expectation that men be overly strong and don't bear their feelings? Or how about the fact that, you know, men who are victims of bad behavior at the hands of females often don't report it because it's socially frowned upon? How about these things get put at the forefront of a Marvel film? Oh, but you don't care about that. It's all about women, because men have everything apparently and women have nothing. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.